sort of drag yourself further up if you wish. Um, the last session here at the Sonne Lumiere for today, Republic Day, is shooting the thriller, as you know. And our panelists are ready. We'll just take a couple of minutes to change the batteries on the microphones, and then I will be in conversation with Srijit Mukherji and Arnab Roy, or the Great Bong. Srijit, Arnab, we are ready when you are. I think Srijit is being both mobbed and is doing a bit of mobbing himself. Thank you, please. Okay. All right. It's a chilly winter evening. Good time to talk about thrillers. We have two panelists here, one of whom writes thrillers, the other shoots thrillers. So the obvious question, I have to ask the obvious question. Sometimes the obvious is a good way to start. What is the, since you write thrillers, Arnab, I'll start with you. What are the challenges a writer faces when a thriller writer faces when his work is being converted to film?
First of all, no author actually likes the film that his book becomes. Because the vision of the author and the vision of the filmmaker are always going to be different. And as an author, I understand that. With the thriller, it's perhaps even more pronounced, because with a thriller, the pacing of the book and the pacing of the film, if you take a thriller and you try to make it into a film in exactly the way the author conceptualized it, it's going to be a pretty crappy film. So, but the author can never accept that, especially and I think there's been a huge amount of work done. There's been Stephen King and Kubrick who have violently disagreed with their versions. There have been, yes, on The Shining. So I think this is, and I think Kubrick did, well, we can debate whether he did a better job than Stephen King. I don't think he did as good a job as Stephen King did. I think he lost the essence of what it was in Shining that was the horror.
Yeah. No, he has a mic of his own. Just because you're sitting so cozily together doesn't mean you have to share a mic. He has one.
Yeah, I agree with Arnab. I think it's pretty much a thankless job, as I have been finding out when I have always adapted stories. There are two very distinct schools of thought. One is that why did you change that comma which was there on the 4th page? It was so nice. Why did you make it a semicolon in the film? And the other school of thought says that why did you stick to the book? Because you should have changed it to suit the cinematic medium. So it's like it's a
no-win situation.
It's a no-win situation for the filmmaker, as I've been finding out. But I kind of tend to agree with Arnab in the sense that yes, I think it is always a disadvantage when you start off adapting a book, because a particular vision or a particular interpretation, not only the author, more importantly, the readers. The readers of a thriller, the way a person has, let's say if I take the example of Shining, so the essence of the horror is something which, apart from its more obvious elements, it's something which is very personal. I mean, it can get very, very, very subjective. So the essence that Arnab speaks about might not be the essence Ankon sitting there might have, might not be the same as you have. So Shining might horrify its readers for slightly different reasons, and the filmmaker, who is essentially the fifth reader in this example, or in example of so many thrillers, he will have his own essence, which he will put on screen, and by doing that, he's no way saying, and this is something which I've pleaded with a lot of violent Shunil Gangopadhyay fans, that it is not something which I'm saying is sacrosanct. Please feel free to disagree. Please feel free to boycott. It's just my perspective, that's all. And like you, I also have a perspective. I'm just more resourceful to have that perspective being put on screen. That's all.
Yeah, I mean, they're welcome to do it if they wish.
Yeah,
they're welcome
absolutely.
to put their perspectives on
I will
screen
watch
if
that
they
first day, first show. Was my promise as well.
And then do what they did to you?
No. If I like my the interpretation that I see, definitely not.
Okay, fine. Just because you are an expert in this field, and I mean, it's not necessarily your area, but when you're dealing with, thriller is such a popular genre, and it has given rise to so many iconic characters. When you're dealing with these icons, do you necessarily, or any other filmmaker, and here I'm trying to be subtle, and I'm trying to imply, names without actually spelling them out. Do you think people necessarily need to take liberties when they are transferring an icon from the book to the screen?
Not really. I think it's a matter of what comes organically. I mean, if, for example, when I came to Kolkata in 2009, I started off my journey with a non-canonical interpretation of Byomkesh. I wrote Checkmate, which was a play, which was Byomkesh's last case, the case after Lohar Biscuit, Iron Biscuit, which was my story. It was based on the characters created by Sharadindu. I went to Probir Babu for permission. He did not part with the permission, so I had to change the name and make it Rishikesh Bokshi and Ajay Bandyopadhyay and stage the play. I wrote another play called Feluda Ferot, which was about this aging Feluda who's turned to gardening, and an aged Mohanlal Meghraj comes back for one last tryst, and we get to meet Mondar Bosch, who's not dead, who's injured, who was fatally injured, who comes back. We have Bikash Singho, we have Anantulal Batra, we have Captain Spark, who studies in JNU now, and we have Topshe is married.
Oh dear, you were living every fan's dream, basically.
Yeah.
You're just
So Feluda Ferot was actually very popular. It was a very popular play in Bangalore, and Navanita Debshen actually really recommended it very, very strongly to Nandona, which is how I met Nandona, and which is how Autograph happened. So Feluda Ferot and Checkmate were both thrillers based on characters created by the famous creators of both the detectives. Now my point is, I wouldn't call it liberty. I would call it pastiche or fan fiction or some kind of a fan tribute. But if you are dealing with the story, I would tend to think that if the story is great, if the story is good, then I think you should stick to it, or at least stick to the essence of it. Again, essence is such a individualistic, subjective kind of a word.
Yeah.
So
Actually, I don't want to ask you too many questions to spoil your session for tomorrow, because Srijit is doing another session on why the detectives in Bengali are confined to fiction, and I mean that's happening at the Western Quadrangle. But I don't want to intrude too much upon that session. Okay, so I'll ask Arnab now, since we're talking about characters and iconic characters. There is this, or there seems to be this popular perception that in a thriller, plot is king. Characterization can come later. Since this is not a quote-unquote drama, there's no such interplay of characters involved. As a writer, do you at all agree with that perception?
Kind of. So most thrillers are focused on the plot. They're not focused on the character. And perhaps the most canonical example is James Bond. So James Bond is one character who never changes in all the movies. There is absolutely zero character arc for James Bond. And it still works because of the thriller and because of the pace. Or kind of works, let's say. For me, when I wrote Mahabharat Murders, the challenge was to take a normal, conventional mystery thriller, base it on two characters. It's more than two characters, but two principal characters, one in the Mahabharat and one who's currently a detective in the Calcutta police force who's investigating a series of serial murders. So that is where I wanted to be different, in the sense that I wanted to create a conventional story, of course. You don't want to lose your reader in all the intellectualism of it all. And by the way, people say these things in lit fests, they don't actually mean it. They just start to write a story. But this I just say to sound wise. But for me, when I have to interpret canon, like for instance, I'm interpreting Mahabharat here, I am trying not to change the story of Mahabharat. I cannot or I should not change what happened after what. So I could do something in which Karna lives at the end. That's, for me personally, that's not so interesting. What's so more interesting, and as I've tried to do in Mahabharat, is take the 5 Pandavas and say, what if one of them was the villain of Mahabharat? And you can create a logically consistent explanation that takes that, and it's anchored in that one character. So everything in the thriller is about interpreting that one character who all of you know and know very well, and the thrill is at the end, not only just solving the murder, but also in knowing this was something which will lay in plain sight all these years, but we never really looked at this character this way. For me, these are the dual thrills. And so one is a plot-driven thrill, and one is a character-driven thrill.
And what about giving offense? Do you go out of your way to give offense?
So that's one of the big problems nowadays when you're writing about Mahabharat. You know, you see who will burn who will cut off what body part. So before I began writing Mahabharat Murders, I actually talked to someone who's part of VHP in the US. And I said, I am planning to write a book on Mahabharat. What shouldn't I do? So he said, just keep Lord Krishna out of it. You're okay.
Yes, this was actually because I am planning an adaptation of Mahabharat Murders myself in some form, either web series or film, or which is something which we are still discussing. Because it is a fascinating read. He will not say it because he's modest and he's wrote it, but it's a stunning, unputdownable thriller. All of you must read it. It's anyone who has this thing for thrillers and mythology would be an added bonus. It's a fantastic read. You must read it. So I'm planning something on those lines. So I was also asking him because we all love to live in peace, and
absolutely.
And so I was just asking, like how safe it is to go ahead and do this. Have you spoken to anyone? Because I had still not read it. After reading it, my concerns were doubled because of the level of violence and some graphic content which is there in the book. Because somehow we've turned into a nation of offending people. I mean, everyone is offending someone else.
And everyone's waiting to take offense.
Yes, it's become the national pastime, what are you doing today? I'm getting offended. So that kind of a thing. So we've discussed and we've more or less managed to zero down on a list of the possible people we might offend. So I don't know, we might have to go and talk to them, and because then please don't be offended.
Yeah, I mean, obtain such clearance certificates. Don't talk about Krishna, you'll be okay.
Yeah.
So you go around.
Or at least, don't behead us. Don't cut off,
no
body parts.
Certificates.
Don't burn us.
So just one of the things is Mahabharat, actually the characters
abuse
are not
us
God.
online, we are fine.
Abuse us, troll us, it's fine. Maybe a peaceful demo in front of our houses. He stays in America, I in Lake Gardens, so I'm the easier pick. Though
book burning is good because you buy the book.
You buy the book, right.
Okay, we have now created this whole imaginary scenario from which I'm finding hard to emerge. Like I want to continue the discussion along these lines, but the point is, you've made Baishe Sravon, which was
And
once
Chatushkon.
again, Chotushkonta
No.
sorry.
Yeah.
I will lapse into Bengali occasionally. That's just something I do. Sorry. Um, Baishe Sravan was about a serial killer
And poetry.
and my point was going to be, it is so stuffed with literary references that people find it hard to believe that you didn't actually draw upon a literary source to craft that film. So did you draw upon one or two or multiple literary sources?
Not really. My main source was the Hungry Generation movement, because that in itself was a very violent movement.
Yes.
And it, cocked a major, swoop at most of the how should I put it, the feeble, I should not say feeble, but the mild-mannered, genteel poets of Bengal. Here were poets who were using language which were downright inflammatory.
Yes.
In
Very
some,
aggressive.
in some cases, in some views, vulgar, obscene, and there were court cases happening, and famous names like Shakti Chattopadhyay were dragged into, and they were, kind of branded as betrayers to the cause, and so on and so forth. So Hungry Generation and the entire, this I had a long discussion with Gautam Ghosh, who was, who played, and who was a major witness to the Hungry Generation.
Yeah, right.
So there was a lot of inherent violence, which was kind of for me simmering at the surface of this movement. I just, from there and my memory as a child of Stone Man in Kolkata,
Right.
which was something which was,
we read about
it was
we used to read about it in the papers.
Yeah, and I still have. I used to stay in this very small house in Bhawanipur. There used to be this just behind Indira Cinema Hall. There used to be this very narrow lane, and I remember when Stone Man murders were happening, I was a child, and I was petrified of footsteps, because our bedroom was just beside that narrow lane, and whenever someone went through the lane, there was this pit pat, and I remember the terror. I remember the fear.
Wow, that's a
so
traumatic memory.
that, and then growing up and reading about the Stone Man murders, and then obviously Boston Strangler and Seven and Jack the Ripper. I'm a huge Jack the Ripper follower. I've read most non-canonical works on Jack the Ripper. I've been to Whitechapel when I went to London. I've done the Jack the Ripper walk. I can describe the victims. I can describe how he killed them. And
okay, now you're starting to make us a little nervous.
Yeah, no, yeah. So it's no, but then you have to think like a serial killer. Yeah, true. After a point of time, like I was watching Mindhunters very recently, and I don't know. I mean, it's problematic, but I really enjoyed Mindhunters. I don't know whether it's a show which can be quote unquote enjoyed, but I really enjoyed. I got addicted, and I love the way this guy, I forget the actor, this bulky guy with glasses. So when he was talking about his victims, I know I'm creeping myself out, but the thing is, if you can't think like a serial killer, it's very difficult to write a thriller. What would you say to that, Arnab? Did you have to think like?
Yes, you have to. So when I wrote my second novel, The Mine, I remember one of the biggest compliments. One of the biggest compliments I got was that I read the novel, extremely disturbing, but I would not leave my child with you. So I felt offended. I mean, my goodness, does the person think that I would? But I understand that you do have to think like a serial killer. And one of the great things about being an author is that on the pages of the book, you have your license to do whatever you want. That's the greatest thing about imagination. Kothao amar hariye jawa nei mana mone mone. So I don't think Rabindranath Tagore meant that in terms of serial killers, but I'm going to take that canon. I'm going to say it applies to serial killer literature too. So yes, I love Mindhunters too, because it shows that serial killers are somewhat likable also. I mean, they're serial killers, but once the serial killing is over, they're just quirky people. I mean, you've seen these people. I mean, they could be your professor, they could be the uncle who lives there, you don't want to go. They're pretty normal people. And And what's chilling about Mindhunter is once you see the serial killers, you think, I've met people like them. I wonder whether they're serial killers.
Yeah, yeah. Yes.
So as an author, I love doing that. I love playing the part of the serial killer. And there's something which I also wanted to mention about the violence. So one of the very ugly reviews of Mahabharat Murders that came out was that it's extremely lurid. The violence is extremely lurid. And then they went on about how lurid the violence was. So first of all, and I don't want to spoil it for you, there's a reason why the violence is lurid. This is not just violence for violence's sake. And another thing in which Stephen King, who's kind of the guru of everybody who's writing a horror/thriller, is that you cannot take your eyes away from the violence. So maybe on cinema, you might move the camera away, but when you're writing, it has to be visceral. So if you look at Stephen King's works, he never shies away from violence. So in The Shining, when Jack Torrance is chasing his wife around, that goes along for about 30 pages, where he's just chasing her around the house and trying to hack her up into pieces. So that's a classic. So for all of you who are a little sensitive, I don't spend 30 pages on somebody hacking somebody up.
No, but when he says visceral, he means visceral. I have read the book. It is a word which comes from viscera, and we all know what that means. So, but then our epics are also very visceral. I mean, if you look at how Jorashanda was murdered, if you talk about Draupadi,
Washing her hair
washing
with
her
blood.
hair with blood. How can one wash one's hair? I mean, wouldn't it get sticky? But anyway,
No, that'll
so
give you something more to think about. I mean, you
Yeah,
started along those lines,
yeah,
so you
I
might
was just,
as well go on.
I mean, wouldn't it stick? And anyway, so it's like, but so that is I think we were discussing that as well, that how our epics, even Thakurma Jhuli for that matter, Opore Kata and Niche Kata and burying people alive, and so we've had a very violent childhood, Arnab, come to think of it.
Absolutely.
Thakurma Jhuli and Mahabharat put
Destroyed.
together. Yeah.
As a matter of fact, one of the novels I'm working on currently is called Shakchuni. So what happened was that my daughter, who was then 2 years old, she was seeing this Bengali video of Shakchuni. And I saw it and I wondered, there's an interesting story there that I never really read the first time I read. It's actually extremely violent and scary. What's there? And normally in the animation you don't see it.
How
But
delighted he sounds.
But it is absolutely petrifying, the subtext of what that is.
Amazing. So now, thrillers for us, in an ideal world, in our innocent days, thrillers meant car chases, fights, beautiful women, handsome men, guns. Both of you have produced works of extreme darkness that qualify as thrillers also. I mean, they are also thrillers. So I know we have this category known as noir, thrillers, whatever. I'm not very good with these categories. So do thrillers have to be a certain kind of, do they have to have certain characteristics in order to qualify as thrillers? What do you see, both of you, as thrillers?
I generally feel there are three possibilities: who done it, how done it, and why done it. So my thing is that sometimes you have all three in a book, sometimes you have two, sometimes you have just one. For example, I mean, there are lots of thrillers where you know who's the murderer to begin with. You just know that. It's the thing of how he escapes, or how he does it, or why he does it. What is the psychological justification or the mechanics of what he does, why he does what he does. So it could be a who done it, it could be a why done it, it could be a how done it, but what essentially it means that it should be nerve-wracking, it should glue you to your seat, and you should be engaged with it at a very, very intense level. That is essentially how I would categorize a thriller, because sincerely, I mean, there is no template. As in, you can't say that it has to be like this, like there has to be a last page revelation of so-and-so is the, you have this. So when I used to read Feluda, or
Exactly, the formula that he
the
gave
moment
Jatayu.
Feluda said that let's meet tomorrow in the Boithak Khana, I knew this is going to be the chapter where we are going to, and then he would start, okay, so you are ruled out, you are the guy, and this is why you're the guy. So this structure, it was very nicely broken by a lot of, I think Agatha Christie is a very big example. In fact, of also the fact that characterization is very, very
Paramount.
crucial, paramount importance in thrillers. I think the Dame is a very, very a strong classic example of that, I think. So what do you think? Well, like, can you typify a thriller or not?
So thriller is that which thrills.
Yeah.
So very simple. So if you're thrilled by car chases and beautiful women, then that's a thriller. If you're thrilled by something else, then that's a thriller. For writing a thriller, the main thing is it has to be something which makes you move the page forward. Now, somebody can say that's criteria for all good literature. But then there's a lot of great literature in which the story does not move, and where it's all about establishing a certain atmosphere, a certain time, a certain kind of dramatic conflict, but there's no real sense of motion. In a thriller, if you're not moving, it's not a thriller. Coming to, and this is again a criticism that has been leveled against my book, was that people, when they go to read a mystery, they think Agatha Christie. So the thing with Agatha Christie and the authors of those ages was that their mysteries were essentially puzzles. And so Byomkesh Bokshi and all of them, but the modern crime thriller has moved away from the puzzle aspect of it.
Yeah.
It's, in a way, one of the reasons why I think they've moved away from it is because of Agatha Christie herself. She's pretty much put every puzzle that's possible in her books, and she's repeated
The
it also.
permutation and combination are
She's
more
done
or
it.
less exhausted.
She's killed it. So nowadays what happens is, since I've read Agatha Christie so much, whenever I read any other novel which is this puzzle element,
Even
like
this.
The Devotion of Suspect X.
Devotion of Suspect.
Devotion of Suspect X, that's an Agatha Christie. She's done it twice.
Yeah.
What they do in Devotion of Suspect X. So for me, it's no longer a challenge to write puzzles. I mean, I'll come back to Agatha Christie, I know, somehow. So it's more important, sure, there is a killer, but it's not so much the mathematical puzzle behind solving it. It's more the realism of solving it. The way modern crime thrillers work is how crime is actually solved. It's not solved by somebody leaving a knitting needle here, which has some history. No, it's not solved by that. It solves through crime work. It's solved somewhat through coincidence. And it's often solved, at least in this case of Mahabharat murders, by the person who's the detective, not necessarily because the person is a great detective. If you read the novel, she's not a great detective. But the fact is, it's her humanity. Okay, so it's not her intellect, but her humanity, in a way, that helps her solve this extremely inhuman guy who's at the other end. I mean, that's really what helps her solve it.
Flawed, very flawed, imperfect
Yeah.
detective.
Very imperfect detective.
I mean, Vaishya Sravan
Yeah,
showed us
same.
that in full measure
yeah,
too.
yeah.
You then did, you've done a thriller like Mishor Rahosya, which is again,
I
it
wouldn't
is
call it a thriller. I think
adventure.
it's very wrongly titled. More than Rahosya, it was like an Obhijan. In fact, I
so
would,
adventure,
if if I have my way, I'll name all my Kakababus ending with an Obhijan. Not merely because of the box office of Yeti Obhijan, but also because I think they are essentially Obhijans. They are adventures, they are expeditions, more than thrillers. I mean, there is obviously a thrill to action adventure as well,
Right,
as like he was.
Right.
ki-
I mean,
kind-
that was one of the boxes that thrillers used to
Yes,
tick.
yes. But in the strictest sense of the term, I would not call Mishor Rahosya a thriller. I would call it an action adventure. Whatever little action and whatever little adventure our limited budgets could provide us with. So it was more like an Obhijan. I would say Baishe Sabon and Chotushkon would qualify as thrillers in whatever little work I have done. And also, to let you in on a little secret, even when I write a love story, I try to treat it as a thriller. Because I'll tell you why. Because I like the structure of the revelation. I like the structure of a twist. I like the structure of moving forward. See, most of my films, like the typical elements of a thriller, are even there in Jatishwar. They are even there to a large extent in Hemlock Society. So, if you take out the genre-specific elements of my other films, you will find the skeleton of a thriller. So that skeleton I tend to retain in most of my films. In fact, even in Nirbak. You know, so which is why, I mean, in that sense, a lot of my the little amount of people who do love and follow my work, they say that Srijit, thriller ho jaye. What they essentially mean is that those elements are something which actually leave a mark on them, because they are there in most of my films. Even I might not be like explicitly stating that this is a thriller, but even then they can feel the presence of those elements.
Arnab, I think the same applies to you for, you know, I mean, the Mahabharata Murders is obviously a thriller. It's obviously a crime thriller, but Sultan of Delhi, you know, you would classify that as a thriller as well?
Yes, absolutely. So I would classify mine, Sultan of Delhi and Mahabharat Murders, as classical thrillers. Even Yatrik has...
Yatrik, I was just about to say.
Even
though it's a kind of a relationship, but just the premise, if you just read the jacket, you'll feel okay. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I can see the delight again in your...
So for me, the ending, so whenever I write a book, and that's really the thriller writer's technique, is you first do the ending. So it's how do you come to the ending? So if you're thrilling someone, the thing is that you want the person to leave thrilled, at least. Even if the journey wasn't worth it, at least the last 50 pages should be. But if you can't get those 50 pages right, you've failed as an author. So for me, it's very important to write the ending first, and then to see, okay, what is it about this ending that's so thrilling, and then kind of walk backwards and create a story. And that's what I've done for all 4 of my books. 3 of which would qualify as thrillers, and 1 would not qualify as a thriller, but it was also written in exactly the same way.
Same for Baisha Savan actually. Sheshar Kobita came at the beginning. So it had to be Probi reciting Sheshar Kobita and blowing his brains out. From there, the other poems came in, and obviously Baisha Savan and the death days of the other poets. So you kind of work backwards.
Correct, right. I'm going to ask you now, you know, some very obvious favorite type questions. Since both of you are going to now collaborate, one hopes, on a thriller from book to film, and then probably end up not seeing each other's faces again because...
Yes. Or very famously as Shunilda, I hear stories about how Shunilda called Satyajit Ray. But, disclaimer, it's not an analogy, it's just an anecdote.
I was going to point that out, don't
worry. No, yeah. So it's just an analogy, just an anecdote, not an analogy. So after Ananya Dinratri, supposedly he was not very happy with how he didn't have that in mind, let's put it that way. So I'm sure the web series of the film that I'm going to come out with, Arnab might not agree with it. But we shall still meet on Lit Meets, and we'll exchange a pleasantry.
Pretend to be friends, yes.
Yeah,
yes.
pretend to be friends.
Not a problem. Is there, have you come across, individually, a perfect adaptation? Something, a film that you look at and a book that you've read and you say that, okay, this was perfect, even if the book doesn't match the film or vice versa.
Game of Thrones.
Prisoner of Azkaban.
Okay. Now you'll have to explain, of course.
Yeah, absolutely.
So for Game of Thrones, and again, I'll qualify this as I say this answer. So the first 3 books are pretty much, they're faithfully reflected in the first 3 seasons. Now, on the 4th and the 5th book, something happened to George Martin, and he just went on and on and on and on. And that happens with character-driven novels, where you don't have a plot, you basically want to build characters. That's how he writes books. That's what makes it unique. But the risk with it is that if you become too famous and your editor is too overawed to say what you're doing, you basically publish a book and basically unedited. And that's actually what happened to the 4th and 5th book. The 5th book was actually, they had to stop it because it was growing too big, and he wrote the 5th book. So it wasn't supposed to be written like that. Now, when they were adapting it, that became a second draft. So they basically cut off, they merged characters, they changed entire storylines. which is also why I think he's not coming back to the sixth book, because it's deviated absolutely. There's no way he can bring it back. Now, I think that it's, again, now there's a caveat. So one of the problems, and that's kind of manifested itself in the later seasons, is that because it has deviated so much from George R. Martin's vision, it has become much more conventional. So you know what's going to happen with George Martin, because it's not character driven anymore, it's plot driven. So D&D have made it plot driven, while George Martin is character driven. I think he's washed his hands off now. So yes, some parts of it work way better than the books, but what's unique about George Martin is gradually being lost because it's become plot driven.
Yeah, that was very detailed. I'm afraid I can't give such a detailed and structural analysis, but I would say this much: when I was reading Harry Potter for the first time, the first instinct was I want to make a film out of this. Then I realized I was wishing for this sitting in Lake Gardens, and I was about to go and shoot in NT1 Studios, and at that point of time there was no VFX studios in Kolkata yet. So then when I woke up, then I went to the nearest cinema hall and I watched Harry Potter. I was just blown away with everything, with the way Quidditch was shown, with the way Quidditch and the way I was just blown away. But even there, I thought, so the book, Azkaban is my favorite Harry Potter book, Prisoner of Azkaban. Now, so the film also, I think, is the most sensitive and the most mature, I think, adaptation of the books into a film. And there's a certain darkness to the...
Yes, it is. It starts to turn dark. That's the point where the series starts to turn dark.
That cusp. Now that cusp is captured brilliantly in the movie, I thought. The frames, the color palette, the way the characters move, the way the characters are shown, even the background score, there were certain somber notes which were used more than the other editions of Harry Potter, which overall gave me that foreboding sense, which was there in the book as well. So I thought it was a very beautiful transliteration into the screen, that particular edition. And also, I think, to be fair, there have been films which have been better than the book. So I was just thinking while he was saying. So I think Meghita Tara, I think is a film which I loved more than
the book, yeah.
the story. Same for Shaptabodhi. I think the film was better than the story, the book. So I think there have been certain cases where the film fraternity has, redeemed itself.
Scored one.
Scored one.
Okay. I'd love it if you have questions. Okay, there will be several. Just quickly, without giving the story away, what is it exactly about Mahabharata murders that has attracted you and given you the idea that this might be film worthy?
I think first and foremost, obviously my innate love for serial killing and serial killers. That sounds wrong at so many levels.
Totally wrong. Totally. So but I think we've got used to the idea now that your brain has been rewired in some way.
Absolutely, absolutely. So no, that is one. Two, mythology. I really love Hindu mythology, and I've read a lot of stuff on that, including Mr. Patnaik, who is. I was hoping to catch his session. No. So let's see. But also the fact that it is centered around Kolkata, and that underbelly of Kolkata, which I so enjoy, which I have explored in Baisha Shravan, which I have explored in Zulfikar.
Which has become your territory now.
Yes, this underbelly is something which is away from lit meets, it's away from Sahitya Academy, it's away from Rashogolla, Saurabh Ganguly, Howrah Beach, Durga Pratima, Kumortuli. That Kolkata is a Kolkata which the genteel Bhadralok will shudder to go into or look into. I love the way this guy, handled that underbelly.
Yes, Kolkata is just such a character in his...
and it got into the entrails of the city. And and obviously the violence. The violence was very refreshing. And
Can you all see his face? Can you all see his face on the big screen when he says this? All
No,
right.
I mean, it could be again a deep psychological damage which my mother caused
Inflicted on-
indirectly by taking me along with her when she was dissecting corpses as a doctor at medical college.
Oh, that
and I
explains
was
everything.
I was roaming.
Why were we even wondering? Of
I
course.
was roaming the corridors of medical college, lifting bins and taking out livers and kidneys when I was, at a tender age of 5 or 6. No, seriously. And I used to love this museum they have at medical college where you, in jars, you have babies with 3 heads, legs coming out of their stomach, and a very interesting museum.
And we are going home to dinner and everything.
Yeah, but I guess that kind of...
We are fine with... We've got it. We've got the idea. Not a problem at all. Arnab, how much do you want, how badly do you want Srijit to make a film out of your book?
A lot. Because when I wrote this book,
After that monologue, I mean, he will not have anyone.
Because first of all, I needed somebody who understood Calcutta. Okay. Who understood the seamy underbelly of Calcutta, who's done seamy underbelly of Calcutta so good. And somebody who, and I'll come back to it, who really likes serial killers. So even though I hadn't kind of met him, having seen his work, I kind of understood that we were kindred spirits, that we both, we walk a little bit on that side.
Yeah.
So
To put it mildly.
yes. So there would be a good confluence of minds, and at least that we would be able to settle on a vision. So that was really, there was no other choice.
Perfect. Okay, this is a good time for... I've conducted this entire session with Hirak Rajar Deshe playing in my right ear. It's just been so distracting. I welcome the chance I have of asking others to ask questions. Where are the mics? Now, second row.
My question is to Arnab Roy. Like, I have read the Mahabharata murders, so it seemed that the protagonist, like Ruxana, had a bit of similarities between Philip Marlowe by Raymond Chandler. Like, she's not perfect like Holmes or Poirot. So did you actually take some traits of Marlowe? And my second question is that, did you actually research, like, did you actually go to the places where you were mentioned with so much detail in the novels? And Srijit, can you please see Feluda Feroz this year in Calcutta, because I haven't seen that one.
The talks are on with Babuda.
Okay.
He is slightly possessive about Feluda, as you know.
No, it's a play, right? It's not a film. Like, we have seen Poranbrata doing it.
Yeah,
for
it's a
web
play,
series.
but it was a play which was staged with Babuda's permission in Bangalore.
Right.
He told me I can stage it in Bangalore, not in Kolkata. And so I am trying to
So
make him...
please upload it on YouTube, then the Bangalore...
Yeah, I'm trying to make him series. I'm telling him that Bidai Bomkesh is happening, so that's a non-canonical
Yeah, right.
work. So Feluda also, now you have a web series on Feluda.
Exactly.
Poramrata
Exactly.
Topshe is playing Feluda. So,
Right.
And my Feluda Perot has Soumitra Chatterjee as Feluda. So,
Okay.
the way I envision it, the
Okay.
play had Borun Chando, but if I make it into a film, it has to be Soumitra Chatterjee and Pankaj Kapoor as Mohanlal Meghraj. So
Okay.
that is kind of what I had in mind, but of course it's contingent on his giving permission.
Thank you. Yeah.
So with respect to Marlowe, so this is noir fiction. So this is not just Marlowe. So there are many, there's a huge number of novels where the detective himself or herself is a broken character. So that's one of the tropes of noir. And so I used that trope of the noir, and again, there was a reason why. And if you've read the book, you know what happens at the end.
Marlowe, by the way, is a nice name for a thriller. no?
And the second is, have I visited some of those places when my parents are here in the audience? So of course I haven't.
Will Ruxana become a fixture? Will we have a sequel with her?
So many people have told me that. So first of all, when I write a
like
novel,
Reverse or more.
yes. When I write a novel, Sultan of Delhi was written. There's a complete story, so it's not a sequel. It's the second part of the story. But this was not written with a sequel in mind. Having said that, never say never. We all know that. But one of
We'll put it in the contract.
Yes. But one of the
That's
things
amazing.
one of the risks of being a writer when you don't think of a sequel is what happened with Star Wars, when you have Luke Skywalker and Leia kissing in the first, in episode 1. That's
But
what when
there's
you-
also precedence with Arthur Conan Doyle where he had to bring him back.
Yeah, he had to, and he received death threats.
Death
and
threats
things
and all
to
that.
bring, so he had to bring Sherlock
So
back.
if Ruxana becomes very popular, you just
You
don't
might
know.
just have to,
Yeah.
Yes.
surrender. Yeah, okay.
Since we are talking about about thrillers, like what is your take on Sidney Sheldon, the type of thrillers he writes? Like, do you enjoy them?
Yeah, I enjoy them. That's about it. I'm not a huge fan. Let's put it that way. I enjoy them. See, I'm slightly traditional and classical about. So I stick to my Poirots and my Holmes and yeah, Marples. I like the old world charm to thrillers, or else I read Arnab Rai. So I guess that's kind of a very
I think it is possible
flattering
to
binary.
outgrow Sidney Sheldon. I mean, that's just my two pence worth. It is possible to outgrow
possible
him.
to outgrow.
You grow out of him at some point. Okay, who has the? Does anyone have the mic there? No. Can we take the question of the young lady behind you? Yeah. Yeah, you.
Good evening, sir. My question is to you. How do you deal with writer's block given extreme time constraint? Like you're like you're halfway through an English test and you have to come up with something. How do you deal with writer's block then?
So if you're in an English test, how do you deal with writer's block? Well, oh my goodness. When I was giving
He's
my
facing
English,
one right now.
yes. So yes, I'm exactly. So the easiest thing is to ask the neighbor. That's usually the most foolproof way of breaking
Given
writer's
that you
block.
have invigilators.
Yeah, so that's the trick, that's the twist. So you have to figure out at that point of time how do you talk to your neighbor without the invigilator knowing. But seriously, the thing is normally if it's an exam, okay, the thing is go to the next question. That's usually going to clear up your writer's block. It's just because your mind is stuck in a rut. So it's like whether you're writing or whether you're doing a mathematical problem, the thing is always go to the next problem.
Thank you, sir.
ওইদিকে এই তো এই যে no there was a race.
Hello. My question is for you, sir. What is your take on Ittifaq, the movie, which released 2 months ago?
I actually like the movie. One of the problems is people will say, look, it's too much ittifaq. There's too many plot holes. And one of the things that you learn...
You replace itte with what the?
Yeah, so it's like, there are a lot of plot holes, okay? But the fact is, did I enjoy the movie? So when people normally say this movie has a lot of plot holes, what they're basically saying is, this movie or this book lost me. And those who enjoy something, they don't look for the plot holes at that point of time. And in many ways, if you want to write outlandish stories, like if you look at Usual Suspects, I can sit with you and tell you what the big major plot hole in Usual Suspects is. Even though I consider it to be one of the greatest movies that I have seen in this genre. Amazing movie, but it has this one shot where they cheat. Okay. You see it from okay. I won't spoil it for those who haven't seen it. But there is a gigantic plot hole in Usual Suspects, and also another thing is people don't understand the ending of Usual Suspects. So if we ever meet, ask me to explain to you what exactly the ending of Usual Suspects was.
I have a similar grouse against Kahani again. There's one particular shot which I thought I told Shujai also that was somewhere there was a plot hole kind of, but it's a stunning film otherwise. Yes, you do come across such things, and but I guess it doesn't take away from the overall charm of the film.
Does anyone have the microphone? Okay, this and then you can ask your question. We'll take 2 more questions after
there
this.
is a 1979 Japanese film called Vengeance is Mine, and there was the killer shown in the very first scene, and then the film goes on. And such a concept was made in 1979 in Japan. Why don't we get such in India, in this country?
So one big reason is the censor board. The Japanese, if you watch Japanese and Korean cinema, they go to places where none of us can imagine going. So if you have take the example of Zinda. If you have seen Zinda, it is copied from pretty much Old Boy, but it doesn't go where Old Boy goes. It stops at the greatest part of Old Boy. Stop.
No, also I think there is another bit to it. I think we are even literature-wise and films-wise, very much in love with the classical concept of the killer's identity being revealed at the end. So we are still with that classical structure of who done it. The how done it and the why done it genres, actually they haven't really bloomed as much as they possibly should have or could have. You take the classic example of Shonar Kella. You know, Shonar Kella, the way the book goes and the way the film goes are totally different. So you know what is happening in the film and you just see you kind of how it happens and why it happens. So similarly, but when the book, when you read it, so there the revelation comes at the end. So I think that revelation coming at the end is something which is a trope which is so universally loved that very few authors or filmmakers, including me, can't resist the temptation of having it at the end rather than at the beginning. I think that could be a possible.
No, I think we have to take that question right there. Okhane? Oh, acha, you had a question. I'm sorry. Apni kore nin, ha. And then we can go there.
I'm asking the question in Bengali, ma'am.
Please.
To you, sir. প্রথমত আপনি সাম্প্রতিক এক সাক্ষাৎকারে বলেছেন যে বর্তমান দিনে পরিচালকদের একটা ব্র্যান্ড তৈরি হয়ে গেছে সিনেমার ক্ষেত্রে, যে এটা সৃজিত মুখার্জি ফিল্ম, এটা কৌশিক গাঙ্গুলি ফিল্ম। এখন বিষয় হচ্ছে যে পরিচালক হিসেবে যখন আপনার সিনেমাগুলোর মতোই আপনি জনপ্রিয়, সবসময় সমাজের একটা চিন্তাশীল মানুষদের কিউরিসিটির কেন্দ্রে থেকে কিংবা একটা সমাজের ক্রিম লেয়ারের সামনে থেকে যখন আপনি তাদের ফেস করছেন, আবার ঠিক একই সময়ে ঠিক অন্ধকারতম চিন্তাগুলোকে একই সঙ্গে মাথায় এনে সেগুলোকে পর্দায় ফুটিয়ে তোলা কতটা কঠিন একটা বিষয়। আর দ্বিতীয় বিষয়, যখন পরিচালক হিসেবে আপনি এই রিস্কটা নিচ্ছেন, কারণ যখন আমরা বই পড়ছি আমাদের নিজস্ব ইমাজিনেশন অনুযায়ী আমরা মাত্রাটা ঠিক করতে পারছি, কিন্তু যখন আপনি সেটা চিত্রায়ন ঘটাচ্ছেন তখন সেই মাত্রাটার ক্ষেত্রে আপনি একার উপর দায়িত্ব নিচ্ছেন এতগুলো মানুষকে দেখানোর, ভাবানোর, সেইটা কতটা কঠিন হয় যে মাত্রাটা নির্ধারণের ক্ষেত্রে একজন মানুষ হিসেবে এতজন মানুষের সহ্যবোধটাকে পরিমাপ করা। এই দুটো কোশ্চেন আমার আপনার কাছে।
আমাদের দেশে আসলে সেন্সর বোর্ড এই পরিমাপটা করে দেয় অনেকটাই, আমার অতটা চিন্তা করতে হয় না। আর সেক্ষেত্রে মানে এই পরিমাপের ক্ষেত্রে একটা জিনিস বলতে পারি, এই গুরুদায়িত্ব থেকে আমি অটোগ্রাফ থেকে হাত তুলে দিয়েছি যে আমাকে প্লিজ এই দায়িত্বটা দেবেন না। আমি একজন দর্শক হিসেবে ছবি বানাই এবং একজন দর্শকের যেমনি সম্পূর্ণ অধিকার আছে তার নিজের মতো করে একটা জিনিসকে দেখা, একটা জিনিসকে অনুভব করা এবং সেটাকে ফুটিয়ে তোলার। সে যখন তার ফেসবুক রিভিউতে তার বক্তব্যটা ঠিক যেই স্বতন্ত্রভাবে ফুটিয়ে তোলেন, আমিও ঠিক সেইভাবেই কিন্তু একটা ছবি বানাই। বলা যেতে পারে আমার ছবিটাই আমার লম্বা 3 ঘন্টা স্ট্যাটাস আপডেট। এবার একটা স্ট্যাটাস আপডেট যেরকম যতটাই স্বতন্ত্র এবং যতটাই অন্য কারোর দায়িত্ব না নিয়ে দেওয়া, আমার সিনেমাটাও তাই। কিন্তু মানে আমি একবারও কাউকে দেখানোর বা অনেকজনের হয়ে কিছু নির্ধারণ করার চেষ্টাও করি না, করতেও চাই না। আমি শুধু আমার নিজেরটুকু দেখাই, তাতে কিছু সময় অনেক মানুষের ভাল লাগে, কিছু সময় একদমই কারোর ভাল লাগে না, সেটাও হয়, সেটাও হয়েছে। সো দুটোই আমার কাছে ইকুয়ালি ওয়েলকাম, আমার তাতে কোনো অসুবিধা নেই। শুধু কঠিন কাজটা হলো এইটা মানুষকে বোঝানো যে আমি পর্দায় আমার বক্তব্য, আমার দৃষ্টিকোণটা দেখাতে পাচ্ছি, সেটা একটা কাকতালীয় ব্যাপার, একটা পরিস্থিতির ব্যাপার। কিন্তু তার মানে একদমই এই নয় এটাকে আমি বেদবাক্য বলছি বা এটাকেই একমাত্র সত্য বলছি বা এটাই ঠিক সেটাও বলছি। আমি শুধু এইটুকুই বলছি এটা আমার। ওই শেষে আ ফিল্ম বাই সৃজিত মুখার্জি এইটুকুই বলে যে ইট ইজ আ ফিল্ম বাই সৃজিত মুখার্জি। It is not a film by someone else, and it is just a film by Srijit Mukherji. It is not a sacrosanct bedbakko, as I said. আর as far as the first question is concerned, অন্ধকার কালো দিক আমাদের এখানে যারা বসে আছেন সবার আছে, বিশ্বাস করুন আছে, সত্যি আপনারও আছে। এবার ব্যাপারটা হচ্ছে যে আপনার কালো দিকটা ওই একই কারণে পর্দায় উঠে আসছে না, বা অর্ণবের কালো দিকটা যেভাবে বইয়ের পাতায় আমরা মনে হচ্ছে আচ্ছা ও সত্যি ও কি ছোটোবেলায় কাউকে খুন টুন করেছিল, মানে ও কী করে জানলো ঠিক এভাবেই খুন করতে হয়। এবার হয়তো খুন করেনি কিন্তু ওকে কোথাও থেকে খুনির মতো ভাবতে হয়েছে। আমি রাজকাহিনী লেখার পর ডিপ্রেশনে চলে গেছিলাম। আমি বলেওছি আগের লিটমিটা একটা সেশন ছিল পার্টিশনের উপর, কারণ সেখানে আমি যখন রায়াটের সিন লিখছি তখন আমাকে ভিকটিমের মতো ভাবতে হচ্ছে, আবার রেপিস্টের মতো ভাবতে হচ্ছে। সেটা একটা মানুষের পক্ষে সাইকোলজিক্যালি একটা খুব ড্যামেজিং জিনিস। সেই ক্ষতিটা আমি করছি, সেটা মানে কিছু করার নেই। আমার যদি গল্প বলতে হয় সেই মানে ওকে সেটা ভাবতেই হবে। মানে ও মানে কি বলবো, মানে জৈন সন্ন্যাসী হয়ে সিরিয়াল কিলারের ফার্স্ট পার্সন ন্যারেটিভ লিখতে পারবে না। ওকে ভাবতে হবে যে আমি ওর গলাটা যদি এরকম স্লিট করি, তার থেকে ওই যে গল গল করে রক্ত বেরোবে, আমি যদি একজন নাড়ি বুড়ি টেনে বার করে কাঁধের ওপর, তো এইগুলোকে ভাবতে হচ্ছে, এগুলো ভাবার পরেই সে লিখতে পারছে। তো একইভাবে আমাকেও ভাবতে হচ্ছে, আমি যদি কোনো রায়টের সিন চিত্রায়ন করি বা লিখি, সেখানে আমায় রায়টের ভিকটিম এবং পারপেট্রেটর দুজনের হয়েই ভাবতে হচ্ছে। যদি সিরিয়াল কিনে আমার প্রবীর রায়চৌধুরী হয়ে ভাবতে হচ্ছে যে এর মাথাটা আমি একদম খুলি, ঘিলুটা বার করে দেবো পাথর দিয়ে মেরে। এটা ভাবাটা অবভিয়াসলি আমার পক্ষে খুব প্রবলেম্যাটিক, কিন্তু সেটা না করলে আমি তো ক্রিয়েটও করতে পারবো না। সো ডেফিনেটলি এটা কঠিন, এবং সেই অন্ধকার দিকটা নিজের মধ্যে থেকে যদি আমি না বার করি, যে অন্ধকার দিকের গল্পগুলো আমি বলছি সেইগুলো খাঁটি হবে না, সেগুলো একটা মেকি থেকে যাবে। সেই মেকি পনাটাকে অ্যাভয়েড করার জন্যই কিন্তু এই অন্ধকার দিকের কাছে যাওয়া।
আমার মনে হয় আগামীকাল আপনারা সৃজিতের সেশনটায় আসুন, কারণ সেখানে কিন্তু এটা নিয়ে আরো অনেক কিছু স্কোপ পাবে বলা।
অ্যাবসলিউটলি, এবং সত্য ঘটনা অবলম্বনে যে কত কিছু হতে পারে, এবং সেটাও
যেহেতু সত্য ঘটনা অবলম্বনে, সত্য ঘটনা আমরা আজকে তো ফিকশন নিয়ে মূলত আলোচনা করলাম, কিন্তু কালকের আলোচনাটা আমার মনে হয় আপনি যে প্রশ্নটা করলেন সেখানে আরো অনেক বিস্তার লাভ করবে এই উত্তর। আমাদের আর একটাই প্রশ্ন নেওয়ার সময় আছে, আমরা এমনি এখানে আর কেউ আমাদের পরে নেই বলে আমরা বেশ চালিয়ে যাচ্ছি ওই শেষের। হ্যাঁ, উনি অনেকক্ষণ ধরে চেষ্টা করছেন।
দুটো কাকাবাবুর মধ্যে কোনটা ফেভারিট এবং কোনটা সাকসেসফুল অ্যাডাপ্টেশন বলে মনে করেন আপনি?
যদি অ্যাডাপ্টেশন বলেন তাহলে আমি ডেফিনেটলি বলবো ইয়েতি অভিযান, কারণ ইয়েতি অভিযানে আমি একটা কমাও চেঞ্জ করিনি। কাজেই যদি লয়াল অ্যাডাপ্টেশন,
সাকসেসফুল ফিল্ম হিসেবে
সাকসেসফুল অ্যাডাপ্টেশন, সাকসেসফুল ফিল্ম বলিনি আমি, সাকসেসফুল অ্যাডাপ্টেশন হিসেবে আমি ইয়েতি অভিযান বলবো। ফিল্ম হিসেবে যদি ইফ ইউ আস্ক মি, আই থিঙ্ক মিশর হর্ষ ইজ মোর সাকসেসফুল, বিকজ ইটস মোর সিনেম্যাটিক, এবং আমি তাতে আমার নিজস্ব অনেক কিছু দিতে পেরেছি। ইয়েতি অভিযানে তো আমি ইচ্ছে করেই দিইনি, কারণ মিশরে আমি দেওয়ার পর আমার মনে হয়েছিল যে এটা একটা এরকম হলো, এবার একটা অন্যরকম একটা কিছু করে দেখা যায়, যেখানে আমি একটা কমা সেমিকোলনও পাল্টাবো না, সেইটাকে এরকম দাঁড়ায়। সো আমি দু ধরনেরই করেছি। থার্ডটা, যেটা কাকাবাবুর প্রত্যাবর্তন, যেটা জঙ্গলের মধ্যে এক হোটেল, ওই গল্প অবলম্বনে, সেটা আই এম প্ল্যানিং টু টেক আ মিক্সড অ্যাপ্রোচ অফ বোথ, যে কিছু লয়াল অ্যাডাপ্টেশন থাকবে আর কিছু গল্পের খাতিরে আমি একটু নিজে চেঞ্জ করব। এবং প্রবলেম হচ্ছে যে, মানে যেটা বলছিলাম শাখের করাতের ব্যাপারটা, ক্রিটিসিজম প্রথম ক্ষেত্রেও ছিল যে কেন খোদার ওপর খোদকারি, তুমি কেন চেঞ্জ করতে গেলে। সেকেন্ডটা ছিল কেন তুমি চেঞ্জ করলে না, তুমি তো ফিল্ম মেকার, তুমি নিজের মতো করে অ্যাডাপ্ট করবে। থার্ডটা কি বলবেন এইটা আমি ভাবছি। সো এইটাও একটা থ্রিলার, মানে মানুষের জীবনটাও তো মাঝে মাঝে একটা থ্রিলার হয়ে যায়। সো থার্ড কাকাবুর প্রত্যাবর্তন এটা করার পর আমি ভাবছি যে ফেসবুকে এক্স্যাক্টলি কোন দিক দিয়ে অ্যাটাকটা হবে। তো এইটা আমার খুব মজার লাগছে। অ্যাকচুয়ালি থ্রিলারটা আমি জীবনেও চেষ্টা করি অ্যাডপ্ট করতে, কারণ সিরিয়াল কিলিংয়ের নিয়ে যে কথা হচ্ছে, সিরিয়াল কিলারদের একটা প্যাটার্ন থাকে, একটা সিমেট্রি থাকে, যে আমি এদেরকে 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 এই জন্য মারবো। দের ইজ সামথিং উইচ কানেক্টস দ্য ভিকটিমস। তো আমার ছবিগুলোকে যদি আমি আমার ভিকটিম হিসেবে ধরি, তাহলে আমার, এটা আমি বহু জায়গায় আগেও বলেছি, কেউ বিশ্বাস করেনি, ভেবেছি আমি সত্যি, এটা খুব জেনুইনলি বলছি, আমার ইচ্ছে ছিল এ থেকে জেড প্রত্যেকটা অক্ষর দিয়ে একটা করে ছবি বানিয়ে ছবি বানানো ছেড়ে দিতে। এটাই ধরে নিন আমার একটা ছোট্ট খেলা নিজের সাথে আর কি। এবার ঠিকই এগোচ্ছে, দেখুন আমি জুলফিকারটা জেড দিয়ে কঠিন বলে আগে করে ফেলেছি, কিন্তু ইয়েতি অভিযান ওয়াই করে ফেলেছি। একটা ওয়েব সিরিজ আসছে, সেটার নাম আমি এক্স দিয়ে ঠিক করে রেখেছি অলরেডি। কঠিন অ্যালফাবেটগুলো আগে করে নিচ্ছি আর কি। এখানে একটাই প্রবলেম হয়ে গেছে যে বেগম জানটা বিটা রিপিট হয়ে গেছে 22/7 সাথে, কাজে আমার হয়তো 26টার বদলে 27টা ছবি করতে হবে, এইটার জন্য আমি ক্ষমা চেয়ে নিচ্ছি।
এই জন্য কি পাহাড় চূড়ায় আতঙ্ক না করে ইয়েতি অভিযান?
ইয়েস, এটা একটা খুব বড় কারণ। অবভিয়াসলি এটাও ছিল যে আই ওয়ান্টেড টু ডিরেক্টলি কমিউনিকেট। আজকালকার বাচ্চাদের না আতঙ্ক, পাহাড় চূড়া এত শোনার ধৈর্য নেই। কি দেখাবে কাকু, ইয়েতি দেখাবে তো, আচ্ছা দেখাও তো, কাম টু দ্য পয়েন্ট। তো তাই জন্য আমি ইয়েতি অভিযান নামটা এই কারণে দিয়েছি, মানে পাহাড় চূড়ায় আতঙ্ক, সে আতঙ্ক ইয়াকও হতে পারে, পোলার বেয়ারও হতে পারে, পেঙ্গুইনও হতে পারে, আরে কি, আচ্ছা ইয়েতি চলো দেখাও। তো
বুঝেছি, বুঝলাম। আমাদের আর সময় নেই সত্যি, যেহেতু ওই সিঁড়িতে দাঁড়ানোর কেউ নেই, আমাদের এটা মনে করার কারণে আমরা চলে চালিয়েই যেতে পারি। অনেক ধন্যবাদ। কালকে 11টায় আমরা ওয়েস্টার্ন কোয়াড্রাঙ্গেলে জয়রাম রমেশকে দিয়ে শুরু করছি আমাদের দিন, আর এখানে রবি অ্যান্ড অনুষা সুব্রমণিয়ম, ইউনিক ফাদার ডটার ডুও। অনেক ধন্যবাদ আসার জন্য, শুভরাত্রি। কালকে 11টার সময় দেখা হচ্ছে।
আর
এবং কালকে
সাবধানে ফিরবেন আর অন্ধকার একটু দেখে হাঁটবেন,
পায়ের আওয়াজ এটা মাথায় রেখে। আর সৃজিতের সেশন কালকে 2টোর সময় ওয়েস্টার্ন কোয়াড্রাঙ্গেলে সত্য ঘটনা অবলম্বনে আসবেন।